I'm right. Good morning. Let's do this. It might not be morning. It's like 6 something. I'm starting filming this. So, it's morning here. Good morning if it's morning there. It might not be morning. Especially when things get posted on the internet. Like, people can watch it at any time of day. So what's the topic of this video? It is, new pages. I made on Wikipedia in January and February 2022. And so when I make a page, what it means is I write up like an article and then I publish it on Wikipedia, and once it's published on Wikipedia, people start editing it and reviewing it and changing it and taking stuff away or adding to it, or just reviewing it, and like it's mostly a good place. There are vandalizers and stuff like that, which I know Wikipedia has a lot of notoriety for it within the writing community as to why a bunch of people don't write on Wikipedia because of the vandalism thing. Like, I want to help, but if my good edits are just messed up by some vandal, why do it in the first place? But I'm pushing through that, and so I'll type up some pages I work on for months. Usually the people I choose, I have a few years head start before I actually make the page, so I have some idea of what I'm getting into. Because if the page passes new article review, it's around. It can still get deleted later down the road for whatever reason, or converted into a redirect and stuff like that. And so, yeah. So it's kind of a, like, for me, currently, there's a sporting event that got canceled, and so having to be creative of, well, if I don't want this page to get deleted, because it shouldn't, because this event had a huge impact before it was even set to happen. Like, it affected, like, for example, British qualification meets for the Olympic Games, and because at least one person, this 2020 Summer Olympic Games, at least one person from the meet that was affected by this championships, it produced someone qualified for the Olympic Games there who won multiple gold medals. So, like, if we're saying Olympic gold medals matter, then the legacy of this event was big before it ever happened. Even hit 2022 when it was supposed to happen, kind of thing. So there's a bit of, I guess this is a long-winded way of saying I'm there for curation. Once I make these pages, I'm there to follow through. Not this should have it, and I don't know how long the follow through will be. That's the learning process. And so I'm going to preface, before I go into these new pages, I do write about Russians on Wikipedia. Why? Well, because my granddad's wife, so my not my grandma, but my step-grandma, 4 of her children's children, so like they'll be like second cousins or something, or step cousins, they're from Russia. They were adopted into the family from Russia. And so the most inhumane treatment I have seen of Russians kind of comes from Americans who are like, ban Russians, ban Russian athletes, and I'm like, well, my family that's Russian, I don't know if they've been to Russia, and if they have been to Russia, it was like to try and find their biological parents or just see where they came from. And you're saying that they're terrible human beings and they should be banned from everything. So I have family, literally. I don't have my aunt and uncle, biological aunt and uncles, they don't have any kids, so I literally only have Russians for like the immediate cousins. Used to play with them and stuff like that. Don't see them so much anymore. I imagine they're going through hell being in America and being Russian, because Americans don't differentiate adopted Russians and that kind of stuff. They just treat them all as non-human. Trying to vilify them and that kind of stuff doesn't work, because some of us actually, I've had a number of really good friends who have been Russian, and I can say proportionally, for the Russians I've known have been better human beings than, like, proportionally the Americans I've known. So on, like, the pure character assessment there's a bit of, why wouldn't I write about Russians? And I wrote something down. Those trying to shame my family, friends, and by association me, go take your pathological ethos rhetoric somewhere else because I care about my family. I care about my family. And yeah, what do I mean by that? Well, I have literally endured physical and sexual assault because there are Russians in my family tree. So just like when people say Russian athletes or Russians or Belarusians or Belarusian athletes should be banned from everything, I go, and how many people have you raped? How many have you physically assaulted? Because I know that that happens from these kinds of people. So fortunately, the International Olympic Committee makes no shame in their mistreatment of different people from different countries, and people publish openly online, so I can be like, okay, who's next in line? I will not be attending any international participating in competing at, I'm nowhere near that level in athletics, in any sport, land or water sport, aquatic sport. But I can rule out if I ever did become good, I would not participate in International Olympic Committee organized events, nor organized by the Olympic Committee trickle-down effects, so like no national Olympic committees and stuff like that. Just, and that is a healthy solution because they don't want Russians or Belarusians there, period. So like, me not competing would be a perfect solution because knowing the International Olympic Committee, they'll probably forget and be like, oh no, we didn't actually mean that. No, somebody's no longer president, so now they can compete. It's like, no, you said ever. So we'll enforce that ourselves, those of us who care. So for me, that's not a sporting event or committee or organization to interact with. And it's worth putting in the legwork to make sure one has found the right sporting events. So that's the prelude to this. What is the first category? So I've made pages in two new, or not two new categories, but two categories. The first one is Aidan Heslop. He is a Welsh/British diver. So he was born and raised in Great Britain, which Wales is part of, but is like in England, and his mother is Welsh, and so he can, in the Commonwealth Games, dive for Wales, which is it was pretty cool. That he actually chooses to do that, and that kind of thing. Carrying on the family tree, it's kind of cool. All right, swimmers. First up is Trenton Julian. He's an American swimmer. He attends the University of California, Berkeley. I went there for graduate school. I quit with no degree. So I would say I had been kind of circling around making this page for a while because I don't really like the university, to put it mildly. And so there was a bit of like, UC Berkeley, California Golden Bears, really? I finally overcame that internal obstacle and I made the page. So there's Trenton Julian.